Lemon64 presents a Playguide and video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi there, welcome to another Lemon64 game guide and review. In this week's episode we'll be checking out Terramex, developed by Tech Software, published by Grand Slam in 1987. As the game loads, our first choice is to select from one of 5 characters: Fortescue Smythe from the UK, Her Crush from Germany, Henry Boku from France, Big John Kane from the US, and finally Wupong from Japan. And even though this would be an ideal opportunity to change the text in the game to suit those languages, it is not. It's just a character selection screen, but as we shall see later on, that does bear a significant change in the game. For this example, let's begin with Henry Boku. From the title screen, it delivers the keys that we need to press in this game. We can play this with the joystick or the keyboard, but a quick press of that fire button should launch us into the action. In Terramex, we must solve a number of puzzles by picking up items, and the first item that we pick up is a vacuum cleaner. You can see this is an otherworldly, unreal landscape, and lots of monsters will inhabit this place, as well as lethal raindrops which will kill a life on contact. By pressing S key we can swap back to our vacuum cleaner, and that allows us to get to our very first important item. This item, which you can only get to by walking off the edge of that platform, holding down fire or holding that thing left for as long as possible, then he will eventually jump from that platform and you can collect that item. If you don't hang on the very edge of that cloud, then you won't be able to collect that, and that is actually a barrel of gunpowder which we shall need later on. Let's again use that vacuum cleaner and get back to those clouds. Some of these items, like this party manifesto, are simply red herrings and you won't have a clue what they do, and I think all these items are listed in the manual, although I can't be absolutely sure of that. I do know what all these items are. So that's the unicycle picked up, and you can see in the bottom right our inventory is piling up. And those are being carried by a group of African warriors. You can see in the bottom corner. By pressing the 1 and the 2 key we can cycle through those warriors, and press the S key to cycle through those items. You can also press the T key at any point and that will think, and at this stage it is recommending the umbrella, so let's select that. That will not protect us from this rain, that will still kill us on contact. Automatically collecting another item, we find a flute, and just like Groucho Marx, we can walk straight by those lethal snakes and not get strangled. We can also collect master items which will apply to key characters in this game, and that cricket ball does not apply to our current character, and I always like to select the umbrella before descending down this well for some reason, and it is recommended to do everything by the book in this game to preserve those precious lives. The controls are fairly tight and we can even jump forwards and backwards in this game, and our character will not fall off platforms. He will simply shake his head and refuse to do that unless you make him do that, and then he will. So you can see the character does have its good points. The walk is relatively quick and the jump is just about long enough. So you can see these levels are presented a lot better than Dizzy Game, a little more atmospheric perhaps, and the graphics are certainly smoother. We also have to watch out for the random nature of some of these items, and the worms which appear from these rocks. Sometimes they can be triggered by movement, and it's always worth taking your time in this game because we still have 27 out of the 30 days which it gives you in this game to complete it. Once again, pressing T, that will reveal that we need the Acme Bridge Kit to bridge across this gap, and as our character will refuse to walk across that gap without that bridge, that isn't a hard puzzle at all. But if we try to think about this one, well, it recommends the bridge again, but actually it does not recommend anything for these snakes, so we have to remember again the flute, and then we can pick that up and use that. Unfortunately I forgot to press the S key, so let's do that, and this time let's get over that chasm without getting killed. The lives in this game come at a premium. We have 3 lives, we cannot collect any more, and our character cannot collect anything else other than items. So let's bounce on this trampoline and reveal the bellows and a set of spurs. And you may think that we can just jump off the edge of this cliff and land on the next part of the game, but mysteriously thinking about this from a safe distance reveals that we need the flute. By standing in this position and swapping around to the flute, that will give us the exit, and it is a very, very difficult thing for the player to turn their back on what appears to be the exit of the level and go all the way back. But even though this is very much counterintuitive, it is crucial to do this, and you must complete this game in the correct order, in the correct fashion every single time, otherwise you will fail. There is a very nice splash effect on offer if the player selects sound effects from the start menu, but we will not select sound effects for this playthrough, basically because they are a little dire compared to this excellent music by Ben Dalglish. Those are the anti-radiation pills, and it is crucial to know what each of these items is, and then you will know what it does. In this particular case, we've picked up a keg of gunpowder. You can see there we now have 3 kegs of gunpowder. The one that we currently own is actually the large one, the small one is the small one, and the large one is actually the medium one. By colliding with the cannon with the medium one, we will get to the other side. Collect any of the others and drop those into the cannon. Unfortunately, you won't make it. So this game is very much trial and error, and it's another one of those games, just like the Rick Dangerous series, where the player will have to find the right combination of things to do, and they will make a number of errors until they find the correct thing. And I happen to know that this is a tightrope, so what we need is the unicycle. And Henry will be the only guy who requires this unicycle, because all the other players will require their own item to collect this special E=mc squared, and don't forget obviously to select the unicycle before the return trip, otherwise you'll lose a needless life. And yes, I have done that before now. If we happen to choose Fortescue Smythe from the first menu, then all we need to do at this point is obvious, and select the cricket ball, and that will get rid of those stumps and give us the prize. So each one of the 5 characters will obtain the E=mc squared in their own way. But let's return to Henry and let's see if we can get any further with this game. The aim of Terramex is to track down and find Professor Eyestrain, who predicted that the Earth would collide with a giant meteor. His proof came correct, and now we must seek out the Professor and give him what he needs to deflect the meteor from the Earth. By using this telescope, we can investigate the position of the meteor, and as those days tick down, the meteor will get closer and closer to the Earth. And I think that's a neat touch now that we've found Professor Eyestrain's hidden bunker, and these are his robots. We know we haven't got too far to go to the end of the game. But if we think in this position, it won't give us any clue that what we actually need is the anti-radiation pills in this next section, otherwise we'll die. And when the robot is on our side of the screen, we can nip down and collect our item, which happens to be a power crystal, but unfortunately leaving this place is very difficult, and if the player dies, if they hold the joystick in the left position, then hopefully they will be able to exit left before they lose any lives. And even on this section, we must learn to jump across this bridge, and lives are very easy to lose in this game, so easy in fact that this game can be quite infuriating, even if, just like me, you know exactly what you are doing and exactly where you are going, because you can get so far in this game, die unfairly or needlessly, have your lives rubbed away, and then you'll be struggling to complete the rest of the game. So we still have some way to go. It will take maybe 15 minutes to complete the game end to end if you know exactly what you are doing, and we've been playing this for around about 10 already. But unfortunately, even though we are going to get to the end of this, we are not going to get to the end using this character, and that is because of these random elements. And sometimes you never know in this game when you're going to die, when you're on your last life. It can be at any point, and so let's use the energy crystal, and remember to take another anti-radiation pill before we climb into this teleport, and those things you only figure out maybe with zap tips and things like that, because there are elements in this game which you cannot think about, and I don't think you can anyway, but the thinking option is certainly welcome. And thinking gets you out of most trouble, certainly not all of it, because the rest of it depends on avoiding all these random elements. Otherwise the meteor will collide with the Earth. So let's try that again, and this time let's choose a different character, and for this we'll choose Big John Kane. And now we get some kind of critter hat and exactly the same smooth scrolling, but again we will find that we need to use a particular item. And of course that is a horse, so we'll need spurs, and then we can ride that horse and get over that item. One of the major criticisms was that this game was way too hard to solve the puzzles, and I don't think the puzzles are way too hard at all. They are certainly difficult, and that is another matter entirely, particularly when it comes to picking up, of course, the green energy crystal. Let's try that again, and let's see if we can do that without wasting any more lives. Yes, in order to escape that room, we must hover around the exit and buzz around that like a blue bottle stuck in a window, and eventually we'll get through that gap, and that isn't very easy at all. It in fact is very difficult. So even though the puzzles are very easy, with that little comedy humour there, we can fall down that bridge, but of course we are safe over that ledge. And another one of the criticisms from Zap was the fact that even though this was a comedy game, supposedly, the comedy wasn't very apparent, and when you die, of course, that isn't very funny at all. So the character will shake his head when going off platforms, and sometimes those death animations can be quite funny. But avoiding enemies by mere pixels with 0 lives in the bank is not very funny, and it just means that the player will be struggling to complete this game from now on. It might surprise you to note that I actually recorded this 10 times with different characters before I actually completed the game, and that is because of these random elements. You never know when you're about to die, and sometimes the impending doom really makes the player sweat. All that should happen is that they should be able to play this game with some kind of competence from beginning to end and enjoy it. But unfortunately the player cannot enjoy this game when there are no lives remaining. And that's the atomic pile. That is another one of those master items that we'll need for the end of the game, along with the E equals MC squared and a red button which should be at the end of this corridor. We don't really need to think about this puzzle. We obviously have a blue switch for a blue switch hole, so let's plug that, and now we can ride across these spikes. And these spikes remind me a little of Bruce Lee, and I think these are the only spikes in the entire game, and it's very difficult to land on those given the fact that the character will not jump into pits. And look at that, an enemy appearing in mid-air. So the player has to have played this numerous times to know exactly where every enemy appears, and sometimes you can time that by waiting for those enemies to appear together and jumping wildly. Sometimes you cannot, but here we go, that's the red button. So let's go all the way back again and brave all those tongues, or whatever they may be, snakes or, well, worms generally, appearing from those cracks. And let's wait for those two to appear together, hopefully. There you go, and then hopefully we won't get killed. And that is not a guarantee of survival, as we shall see. But this is completion number 8 on our 10 plays, and, well, that's just about it. This time let's use Hair Crush, and his special ability is to be able to drink, apparently. So let's collect the beer barrel from over here, and if you wondered what this item was, it is a barrel of beer. By returning that, we can now collect the master formula, which we must give to the Professor. Let's try it for a third time to survive this hoverfest, and remember once again to select those pills, and swooping down collecting the crystal isn't hard. When you collect the crystal, if you push the controller in the up direction, then you'll bounce on the ceiling, and then all you need to do is to bounce like a bumblebee around the exit, and finally if you get that to the pixel, you'll find the exit. Let's try that again before the alien appears. Really slowly, and finally there you go. So let's speed this footage up yet again, because this game should take 15 minutes, but this review is more like 25. And let's see if we can get any further with this character just by surviving. And like this, I am determined to get that coat hanger without losing my first life, but that thing is determined to kill me no matter what I say about it. And sometimes you can't actually time those things to perfection. Look at that. Slow motion reveals I only just missed that thing again by 1 pixel. So let's return back to the Switch. Despite the tremendous character of this game, being able to play all 5 characters in this sprawling landscape, the absolutely great music, and the detailed graphics, which aren't absolutely amazing, but they are functional to the job. No, at this point this game gets very frustrating from the fact that we know exactly what we must do, but we are prevented from doing so simply because of avoiding all its action. Look at that! Missing that thing by yet another pixel, and we could have died just like that. So yes, jumping backwards gives us a little humour, but constant jumping is the only way to survive those random elements. If anything, these puzzles are so easy it's a joke. Certainly not as hard as they were in Jack the Nipper 2, another Gremlin game. And the history and the background of this game, it was known as Comic Relief in the US, that was its US title, and the name of the professor got changed from Albert Einstein to Professor Renegade. You may notice on the title screen that this game is supposed to be published by Argus Press, and that was because Argus Press changed its name to Grand Slam in 1988. Peter Harrop and Sean Hollingworth coded this game. They worked for Gremlin, of course, and then moved from 1987's RV Saint Monty, and also Death Wish 3. They then appeared in '88 with Pac-Mania for Grand Slam, Terramex, and the Flintstones. The music by Ben Daglish speaks for itself, and this was one of the last of the compositions he created for the Commodore 64. the most vital ingredient, that's a cup of tea, and every budding professor needs one of those. Once again, the game will not allow us to leap from ladders, so we have to climb down from those, but because we are so close to the end now, finally, surely nothing at this point can go wrong. The last item that we'll need to complete this section is we'll need to find the bar of silver. And why a bar of silver? Well, if you select that, go to the anvil, that will manufacture a cross, and on the next screen you will find out why. When I originally had this game, I was stuck on the next section and I only got through that with a zap tip. So this game's fun factor falls down in a number of key areas, and the very fact that the player will have to memorise this game 100% and take the time to avoid all those worms really lets this game down. But apart from that, taking a look at the scores, the lowest score in this case was Zap, who only gave this 31% in September 1988. The Games Machine gave this 65%, your Commodore gave this game 69%, and the Lemon C64 rating is actually 76% on the Lemon 64 website. That awards this game 6.5 out of 10. Now that we have reached Professor Eyestrain, we can now give him the final items that he requires so that he can deflect the meteor. The first item he will request, well, that is the magic formula E equals MC squared. All we have to do is to collect that, find that, select that, and he will take it. And what is the next item? In this case, it's the coat hanger. Let's find that wire coat hanger and select that, and he should take it. The next item in the list happens to be the 9-volt battery, and it's a good job we collected that. There it is. Unfortunately for me at this point, the next item in the list happens to be what is known as an atomic pile, which just looks like a cauldron to me, but cauldron or not, I did not collect that item from the sub-room, which you may have seen me collecting earlier on with another character, so it means at this point that I have thrown away the game. I do not have the E equals MC squared formula to get across this drawbridge, so there is no way back to collect the item, and so let's skip on to my 10th and last recording of this game, and again it's with Hair Crush, and this time hopefully if you wait for the scientist to go all the way to the right, he'll eventually spit out what he needs to complete the game. So here we are again, let's try that again, and it's important to collect every single item in this game, except perhaps for the small gunpowder, the very large gunpowder, and the party manifesto. Everything else needs to be used, and the flash gun actually gets used by Wukong, and that's his special ability to use that with a camera. Every other item is used in this game, and so let's distribute those items and let's complete it eventually. So thanks once again for viewing another Lemon 64 Playguide and review. I wanted to complete and review this game for quite some time, so I'm glad I've got around to doing it. I have played the Amiga version and I still appreciate the C64 version better, and I think the music is better on the C64 version as well. But I think this game all of a sudden is quite annoying and nowhere near as fun as I remember it to be when I last played this in the 1990s.
Infinite diversity in infinite combinations, symbolizing the elements that create truth.
To add insult to injury, the game makes the player wait at the end by making that professor walk all the way from the left to the right, and he will change all those dials individually, and finally when he gets to the last one he will demand a cup of tea, and that's the game over. So once again, thanks once again for viewing this Playguide and review. Hope to see you in another one pretty soon. Thank you.